Ah, Brussels. What do we know about this amazing city that Brussels sprouts are named after? It's French and Flemish, has sick-ass canals, world-famous comic books, controversial modern architecture, and the capital of one of the most powerful organizations in the entire world, the European Union. But how, you might ask as an American? Why didn't they choose Paris or London or New York City as the capital of Europe? Why did they choose Brussels? Well, you've come to the right place to get that question answered. When Brussels was first founded, it was literally a swamp. In fact, the name of the city itself comes from the fact that it was a settlement on the swamps. Throughout its history as a medium-sized yet administrative city of the nobility in the Low Countries, Brussels enjoyed a particular kind of prosperity as a hub of commerce and noble power in the region. Although it could never rival the likes of truly large European cities such as London, Paris, or even nearby Amsterdam, it could beat them in its beauty. Yes, Brussels, unlike the dirty and congested streets of London or Paris at the time, was in some regards more spacious and offered a higher standard of living for its citizens, and was a decently powerful city in the region. But history had other plans for this small city. With little geographic protection and being a small flat country with an equally small military, Brussels was under occupation after occupation after occupation, until the end of World War II, when Europe realized it finally needed to get its act together and created what would later become the European Union. A fabulous union of European countries to foster peace, connectivity, and intergovernmental decision-making. And the European Union had to achieve this goal through a plethora of bureaucratic organizations. And like every important bureaucratic organization, the EU needed a place as its capital. A piece of land where it can throw together all the buildings it needs to maintain this massive organization. And that piece of land is very important. Obviously, they had a lot of great cities to choose from, it being Europe. But a lot of the cities they were considering just didn't fit the long laundry list of criteria they had. But somehow Brussels managed to avoid all that to get the spot. So, to summarize pages and pages of complicated politics down, here are the reasons why. First, the newly formed EU post-World War II looked very different from the one we know today. Instead, it was a European Economic Community, and looked like this with only a handful of countries, namely Germany and France being the most powerful. In fact, the first cities considered for this role of this capital city for this new European organization were Strasbourg in France and Saarbrücken in Germany. But both cities were just not centrally located and gave too much geographic power to one country over the other, which Europe definitely wanted to avoid after two devastating world wars. Also, many of the considered cities were simply just not the natural center point of rail lines and were located quite a bit ways in the interior, meaning that they were quite far from sea routes as well. There was also this Goldilocks kind of measurement system for how big a European city could be to become the capital of the European Union. It couldn't be too small, or else there would be an inevitable housing crisis when all those government officials working for the EU flood the city, which eliminated a lot of smaller, more regional towns and cities from the selection process. And the city couldn't be too big and prone to congestion in the busier city centers, which eliminated a lot of large, populous European cities. The founders of the European Union also wanted to make an ideological statement with the city that they chose. A new capital city of a new European organization that could be the bridge between the two broad European civilizations. Latin with countries such as France, Italy, Spain, and Portugal, and Germanic with countries such as Germany, the UK, the Netherlands, Austria, and the Nordic countries. There was also the Slavic civilizations, but those were For that reason, the founders of the European Union wanted to avoid giving it to any cities that were clearly a part of a certain identity to not alienate the other identities. And the city that perfectly fit all those categories was, you guessed it, Brussels, Belgium. Brussels is a seriously good location. It finds itself right in the middle of the Low Countries, one of the most densely populated parts of Europe, with extremely high population centers in the vicinity. The city is roughly equidistant from Paris, the cultural and administrative capital of France, the North Rhine-Westphalia region, which houses Germany's largest megacity with over 10 million inhabitants, which also contains the city of Bonn, which is the former capital of West Germany, Amsterdam, the capital of the Netherlands, London, Europe's financial hub, and not too far from Berlin, actually. Brussels is located right smack dab in the natural confluence of rail lines, and has close access to the sea with several large ports being nearby. The city is also the perfect size. Not too big to have a congested city center, which means that all the necessary buildings for the European bureaucracy can be built right in the city center, and not too small that all the incoming European government officials overflow the infrastructure of the city. It's just the perfect size. And it also fulfills the ideological goal. The city is located in a country and region that sits on a natural border between the Latin and Germanic civilizations of Europe. In fact, even going a level deeper and looking at the country of Belgium itself, we see a country split between a French-speaking part in the south and a Flemish, Dutch-speaking part in the north. And Brussels is located right in the middle of Belgium, right on that border between the French-speaking and Flemish-speaking part. Therefore, even down to the smallest level, the city of Brussels acts as a natural bridge between the Germanic and Latin parts of Europe. Also, the power equation just doesn't function here. Belgium is a small country and couldn't reasonably use its geographic control over the European capital to create unsavory politics. Unlike, say, the capital is situated in France or Germany, because we all know why. Overall, after the disconnect of World War II, the European Union just wanted to have a city where all these important government things could take place without creating unnecessary political tension. And choosing Brussels as the capital city was an important piece of that puzzle. And it's safe to say it has worked. Europe has entered a time of peace it hasn't seen pretty much since Europe was a thing. And who doesn't love it when our government employees can travel to a beautiful, uncongested city with controversial modern architecture in a geographically unbiased location close to their homes, munching on some Brussels sprouts as they do the most important work for their citizens. That's Brussels for you.